And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another BPTV live here on Sunday. I appreciate you tuning in. Sorry for the delay. Some reason YouTube wasn't playing nice today, so it took a little while to reload, but I'm glad we made it happen. Shout out to all you guys out there. Thank you for tuning in. I thought we'd try 6 p.m. tonight just because it seems to me that I kick off at 5:30 that people don't tune in till later in the piece. So I thought we'd try 6 p.m. Let me know in the comments if this is a time that better suits you guys who like to tune in. Really appreciate you doing that. Guys, muscle soreness. Let's talk about it. D.O.M.S, delayed onset muscle soreness. And we're going to really kind of get into the window of recovery, which causes us to feel this way, and why it works the way it works, and what we can do to make it better in terms of speeding up the process with which we bounce back and how we can reduce our soreness. So let's talk about these topics. So really, what is the difference between, say, D.O.M.S and then acute muscle soreness, which happens almost straight away when you're exercising really freaking hard? Number two is, why do we get sore on the second day, like really sore, versus the first day? You know, the day after you train, you think, oh, I'm not too bad. And that second day, pow, it just hits you, right? We all know that feeling. You can barely sit down on the toilet. You're like, oh, my legs, old man syndrome. And then number three, if I do not get sore, do I still get the gains? Am I still going to get muscle growth? Am I still going to get strength? We're going to talk about the role between soreness and actual physiological improvement and what that means if we don't get sore. And then the fourth thing is, how can I reduce muscle soreness and speed up recovery? So even if you get sore, how can we shorten up the time and get you there? Why do we only get D.O.M.S after sleeping? Interesting. And I'm going to talk about this too. This is relevant to release of growth hormone related to sleep. My guy. Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate the audio check. Sounds good on my end because I got the earphones plugged in, but just want to make sure it's good on your end, guys. So I will talk about that. So hold off for a second. I'll get to the D.O.M.S and sleeping thing in a sec. So delayed onset muscle soreness. Let's talk about it. Why is it D.O.M.S? Why isn't it just instant muscle soreness? Let's talk about the difference between the delayed and the acute phase. Understand this, guys. So when you're working out, whether you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're lifting weights, you're sprinting, anything that's going to cause a release of lactic acid, but then also muscle damage, you're going to get two things. You're going to get the acute discomfort of essentially just the buildup of lactate and the acidity in the muscle, which just makes you want to stop and makes your muscles pump out. But that is not the same as tissue damage. The tissue damage occurs through the eccentric phase, rolling anything that is acute muscle soreness that is quite different. Now, acute muscle soreness can turn into D.O.M.S. If you get enough acute muscle soreness, you get enough tissue damage, that can turn into D.O.M.S. But why D.O.M.S? Let me explain. So when you get punched, like when you get punched hard in the chest, or you cop a knee to the face, you get a bruise and it stays residually sore, you get the tissue trauma, which is the soreness at the time, but the soreness you also get is the healing. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So why do you get so sore on the second day? So you might do a head workout. The next day, you're like, oh, I feel pretty good. I might work out again. But then it might be that night. What they say is the window is between 24 and 36 hours. They say 48 hours in studies, but that's kind of not really true. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. So when you start here and you're doing your workout, you basically start to break your muscles down so that when you get down here to the bottom, this is the end of the workout and you're completely gone, right? You have a certain amount of muscle damage, certain amount of fatigue. Now, the quicker you can bring yourself up from this point back up to an even level, the growth occurs when you're at the even level and you're going to go above it. And this is super compensation. So you guys can, anyway, I'll put it in here for reference. You can Google it. So this is the arc of super compensation. It's also when men with small dicks buy really big cars. No, I shouldn't have said that. It doesn't matter. Supercompensation. So the arc of supercompensation, the soreness occurs when you have growth. So know that you will be broken down to this point here and you start to come back up, you will start to get sore here. Now, what determines at what point you get sore really depends on your hormone levels, your nutrition, and your recovery. Now, if you're someone who doesn't eat well, doesn't sleep well, and generally the body is like quite inflamed, you can be sore for days at a time. Like we're talking like 2-3 days, you're killed. You might have been written off for a whole week. Now, generally, where most of us experience this is when we get a new workout. We're like, oh, I got this cool workout my friend gave me. I try it out. You do it, it kills you, and then you can barely walk for a week. You can barely lift your arms. Like, oh my God, what is this? It's a big shock to the system because you're stressing the muscles in a way maybe they haven't experienced for a while, or through angles that they're not used to taking the stress. So there's two components to this. There is the actual kind of tissue damage which occurs, and then there's also residual acidity from lactate, and then also waste products produced from muscle contractions. So here's the thing. We've got two things here. One, we need improved circulation to get the waste products out, and then we need circulation to get nutrients in. So let's say you get really freaking sore and you're like, I can't move. I'm just going to sit on the couch. This is the worst idea. You need to move because you need to get new blood in there to get the aminos in there to help repair the muscles. You need oxygen in there to help convert any of the deoxygenated blood that's residual and to restore like an even balance. We also need to get magnesium and phosphorus and all the different, we need to get all the ATP in there. If you do nothing, if you get really sore and you do nothing, you're going to be sore for longer. So pro tip, if you get really freaking sore, you have to move. Movement is number one. We're going to say that to the end. I've jumped ahead. So why the second day? Like I said, you have this delay where you're here, you've broken your muscles down, you're coming back up. The second day is typically the point at which you have that arc of supercompensation. This is the prime time for you to lift again. Not exactly when you're sore, but that moment just after where you're not as sore, but you're a bit stiff. This is your muscles healing. And this is the key thing. If you know your timing, like let's say I know for myself that it takes about 2 days. So if I do a really heavy workout on Monday of a particular type of movements, lifts, whatever I might be doing, I will be good to lift again at the same intensity by about Thursday. So I give myself 2 days. I then will do a workout on Tuesday, which is different movements, stressing different muscles. And then I have Wednesday kind of free to not do lifting that day, which means I repeat my Monday workout on Thursday and I repeat my Tuesday workout on Friday. And it gives me that nice 48-hour window to really heal so I can just, boom, smash it again. That's me. Other people, now, if you're super young, like my boy Julian Rees, shout out. It's nothing like being 20 years old, 19 years old, and just being a young blood and having all the growth hormone in the world. You might bounce back in a day. You might be a bit sore and then you're good to go again and again and again. And this is what people on steroids feel. I'm not saying Julian's on steroids. Don't misunderstand me, guys. He's on natural steroids. He's got all the growth hormone going on he needs. He doesn't need any more. But as you get older, the body's response is it doesn't produce as much growth hormone. If you're not sleeping, your body doesn't produce as much growth hormone. If your nutrition is crap, your body will not produce as much growth hormone. And growth hormone is one of the number one things that helps your body heal. So we are trying to maximize that so we're not as sore as long and we can get back in and do it again. So let's talk about, if I don't get sore, do I still get the gains? Because that's the thing. Like, we really associate soreness with, yeah, I did a good workout. After a while, you kind of get into it. You're like, yeah, I feel it's a good feeling. Like, oh, I'm a bit sore, but there's a reason. I'm not just sore from getting beat up from jiu-jitsu. Literally, I have caused this soreness in my body, and you associate it with growth. So you're thinking, oh man, this is a good thing. I want this soreness. But then your body adapts. So you'll be doing similar workouts and you're like, oh, I'm not getting sore. There's a problem here. Actually, there's actually not a problem. what you're doing is your body is adapting. You're not getting as much tissue damage, even though you're still getting benefits. So here's the thing. Soreness doesn't equate to gains, right? What we need to know is that, like, I'm going to explain the eccentric phase. So a lot of you may or may not know that when we're looking at any lift, so there's a concentric phase and an eccentric phase. So if I'm doing a shoulder press, the concentric phase is when I lift my arms up. The eccentric phase is the lengthening phase. Now, part of the reason why we take so much damage in the eccentric phase is the muscle is actually lengthening under tension while tearing. And this is the most damaging. Now, your body is actually strongest through the eccentric portion of any lift, whether it's a squat, a pull up, anything. You actually have 30 to 40% more kind of, shall we say, contractile force eccentrically. It's a safety mechanism. So let's say, for example, someone was to suddenly hand you something heavy and you couldn't hold it, you'd receive it like, and you'd go to put it down, and you actually would have the strength to lower it, even though you don't necessarily have the strength to stay holding it. This is a safety mechanism, so your biceps don't just and tear, right? We can take advantage of this by doing more eccentrically loaded activities. So if you to build a degree of like tensile strength in your connective tissues and actually build up your tolerance for pull-ups. So eccentric training is important, but this is what makes you really freaking sore. That's why plenty of people, like it's a bit of a thing to develop power, will do the concentric phase, like a power clean, and then they'll drop the bar. Or they'll do a deadlift, they'll stand up, and then they'll just drop the bar because they don't actually want the eccentric phase. They want the benefit of the contractile force without doing the eccentric phase because it makes you really freaking sore. So what do you do if you don't get sore? Now, there's two things to this. You can get stronger without getting sore. That's cool because most of us aren't really looking to get super swole. I mean, maybe you want to put on some muscle mass. So then, yeah, it's going to require a bit of extra effort to create a certain amount of like time under tension and damage there, muscle tissue damage, which will result in growth, provided your nutrition is good. There's all these contingent factors, right, guys? But the thing is, getting strong is training your nervous system. It's a type of coordination, which doesn't actually require you to really smash your muscles up. But if your muscle cells are bigger, the cross-sectional size is bigger, there is more room for you to create denser fibers, therefore more cross-sectional size for you to develop into something that can be strong, the fibers which you're going to use to produce force. So here's the thing. If you have big muscles, you have greater potential for strength, but big muscles aren't necessarily strong muscles. Strong muscles are coordinated. And so here's the deal, guys. You can get really strong without being really big. But if you're bigger, you have greater potential for greater strength. I hope that makes sense. So if you are not getting sore, that's okay if you're wanting to get strong. But if you are trying to get bigger and you're trying to put on muscle mass, whether you're a man or a woman, you do have to think, I need a degree of muscle soreness. It doesn't have to be epic, but we need a degree of muscle soreness. So if your body has adapted to your current program, it's time to switch it up. So part of the reason why we have cycles in the Bulletproof for BJJ program is it takes anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks for your body to adapt to a particular stimulus. That's why we've done it the way we've done it. Also, it enables you to have a certain amount of variety. We like to change the moves up on you guys just a little bit. Like it's still the same movement pattern, but we're giving you a slightly different exercise so that you can progress and develop your coordination and still be challenged. So that's what we want. We want to gradually progress you. We don't want you doing the same move like just nonstop for 12 months because your body adapts. It's smart. And then you're not going to get the same results. That's why I wanted to say. So in terms of gains, you can get stronger without getting sore, but you do need a degree of soreness if you're going to keep building muscle. Cool? All right, my friends. Now, if you have any questions about anything totally unrelated to what I'm talking about right now, feel free to just chuck them in the comments on the side. Always appreciate any kind of questions you have. It could even just be some random thing about jiu-jitsu or something in the world of BJJ in general. I'm happy to riff on it I usually do it at the end. Now, how can we reduce muscle soreness? Because there was actually a study done, I think it was about 5 years ago, with powerlifters, and they were taking a large amount of ibuprofen because like powerlifting is brutal. It's very simple, but it gets you super sore. And here's the thing: you're putting all this load on your joints. It makes you super stiff, even though you might be very strong at those movements. It almost causes a degree of disability because then you're not very good at doing many other things. So, really important here that we understand for you guys, soreness is part of the process because it's part of the inflammation response in terms of ibuprofen to limit inflammation. So, what happened was they did not get as strong and they also did not build as much muscle. So there is a direct correlation between the inflammatory phase of healing and growth. And this is the thing. They were taking the anti-inflammatories to go, okay, now I'm not as sore, I can train more, but training more didn't actually make them stronger. And limiting the inflammatory side of their training, like the healing process, actually limited their gains. So being sore is part of growth. If you are trying to grow muscle, being sore isn't necessarily a bad thing. We just need to know how to freaking deal with it. Like there's plenty of people out there who say, oh, I have CBD oil, or I smoke some weed, or I drink whiskey, or blah, blah, blah. Like there's many things that people do as humans to, I guess, give themselves a type of anesthetic because we don't like pain. In general, we try and do what we can to move away from pain. But this is what I want to communicate to you guys. D.O.M.S is part of the process. If you want growth, if you want muscle growth, if you want strength, you have to know that you're going to get a little bit of the soreness. Now, we do jiu-jitsu, right? So we are constantly getting sore from just mincing our bodies and cranking our arms into weird spots. That is different. That is more tissue trauma from direct external force, as opposed to what we do, which is like lift weights, and then that causes a degree of internal force production, which causes tissue damage. Very different. So if your body is always sore from jiu-jitsu, this is a different kind of stimulus, and it's not necessarily going to relate to you growing or developing. It's actually you breaking your body down. You should know that jiu-jitsu is almost like the opposite of bodybuilding. It's body breaking. I mean, we kind of know that in a funny way, right? We know that we're trying to bend each other's arms and crank each other's necks and twist each other's feet off. But really, jiu-jitsu is constantly breaking your body down. And if your nutrition and recovery is not on point, you eventually will hit a break point where you have to have surgery. And that's not what we want, because surgery has all this trauma associated with it. And I'm not talking like psychological, I'm talking physiological trauma from them cutting into your body, and then all the drugs and all the bullshit that goes with it. So let's talk about recovery. Fourth and final point, my friends. How can I reduce muscle soreness and speed up recovery? So here's the deal. There are plenty of natural ways for you to shorten up that recovery cycle. So like I was saying before, if we look at this, this is you at the start of your workout. You're breaking your muscles down and then you hit here. Now, if your nutrition is poor and your sleep is poor and all of that, your body's going to cruise along here at the bottom and take ages before it starts to rebuild. So your window of recovery is it's huge. It takes ages. It's like really crappy lag time on bad internet, i.e. my internet. Apologies. So understand this, guys. We want to shorten this up. If you could like kind of come down here and then bounce back up within a 24-hour period, that's freaking awesome. That's what we want. But how can we do that naturally? For the best part, like a lot of athletes out there will do that with supplements. And we don't need to actually do that. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of legal supplements which you can use, but there's also lots of things that you may not have considered. Now, I wrote this in a recent newsletter. I don't know if you guys out there following this YouTube get the Bulletproof for BJJ newsletter. If you don't, you can go to our website and become a subscriber to the newsletter, and you can get some insider tips. But what I'm going to talk about is the key things you can do to basically get rid of muscle soreness and still get all the benefits of recovery. So here's the deal. Number one is movement. Movement is medicine. This sounds weird, but it's true. Like I said before, we need nutrients to the muscles for them to rebuild. We need nutrients to the bones and all the connective tissues so you heal. So if you guys are across X-Men, think about your boy Wolverine. He's got mutant healing factor. So even though he might get a cut or a graze, it just heals almost like a Terminator, just goes back like so fast, right? And it would be amazing if we could have that. Moving, whether you're walking, you could be going for a jog or a swim, or just general activity improves your circulation, which brings more oxygen into the body. It means that all the amino acids that you've ingested from your food get delivered to the muscles, and you also start that refueling process of your liver pumping out glycogen and sending it to the muscles. Like I said before, if you get really sore and you're just stuck on the couch, this is actually terrible in terms of your recovery. Doing nothing because you feel sore is the worst strategy you could have. So even though I know you might be like, oh, I'm crippled, I can barely walk. Trust me, if you get a sweat on and you move, you will actually feel dramatically better afterwards and not be as sore for as long. So that's the first one. Movement is medicine. That's what we must do. So the next thing on that is get yourself into water, swimming or a big bath. Why? This is to do with hydrostatic pressure. So some of you out there might be across Skins. Skins had the claim, Skins is like compression wear. Now, plenty of us out there, we wear rashies and leggings like spats, whatever, but it's not necessarily compression wear. The claim with Skins was that by it causing this compression around the muscle, it helped with recovery. Now, sure, if you're wearing like a pressure stocking like they have in hospitals, it does increase venous return, but it's super uncomfortable. It's so tight that you probably couldn't exercise in it. Now, Skins, on the other hand, they can be tight and 2XU, and there's various brands that have this claim. But the truth is, the efficiency that comes from wearing these tight clothes is almost like wearing a garter, like the thing that women used to wear back in the day to like pull their ribs in and compress them, right? Essentially, it's not that it actually improves your circulation. It limits the like movement and the distribution of your tissues. You know, slow-mo when you see someone running like this, like all your tissues are bouncing around. When you tighten it in, you use less energy because you're less inefficient. So it's all about efficiency. So a lot of these products are related to running, jumping, more like field sports than jiu-jitsu. So how do I relate this back to swimming? Guys, when you are submerged in water, which is deeper than 1.2 meters, this increases the hydrostatic pressure on your skin, which speeds up blood flow back to the heart without increasing your heart rate. This is really cool because what this means is you get better circulation without working hard, without stressing your body. Yes, of course. So Jeremy's just asked, does extreme heat or cold, like a sauna or hot cold showers, help after crazy session? Now, there has been some literature to say that, doing an ice bath after, acute or intense bouts of exercise helps with reducing inflammation. But this is actually not what we're after. We want a degree of inflammation. But how do we go from being in this broken down phase to the bouncing back phase? And it is contrast that works best for that. So as much as you can go to the sauna and be like Joe Rogan and just like sweating your balls off, that's fine. It is the contrast between heat and cold and alternating that has the greatest benefit of recovery, because this causes vasodilation and vasoconstriction. So vasodilation, your blood vessels dilate because they're elastic, whereas your veins do not. So your arterial system is elastic and it pumps. That's why you might see in a samurai film, dude gets his throat sliced like, he's like kind of Kill Bill style. That's a bit over the top. But yeah, if you get an arterial bleed, it'll pump. Whereas if you get a venous cut, like a tear or a hemorrhage, it'll just ooze because your veins are like concrete pipes. They return the blood to the heart, but they're very, very slow. So when you get heat, you get vasodilation. And when you go to the ice bath or into the ocean, the cold ocean, you get vasoconstriction. And it's the dilation and constriction, and it's the contrast which improves circulation and improves recovery. But I hope that you're cool with that, Mr. Martinez. Hope that gets you right. What I want to say about swimming, guys, and getting yourself horizontal in water, even if you had like a hot bath, even though it doesn't do so much for the hydrostatic pressure, you being horizontal in water does increase that venous return. So it's like having a compression garment over your whole body, and it doesn't cause stress to your heart. So you don't release stress hormones, but you get all these improvements in circulation. So that's why swimming and immersing yourself in water deeper than 1.2 meters is really good for improving recovery and reducing muscle soreness. So when you see footage of like footy players getting out and doing ocean sessions and stuff like that, there is some science behind that, and it is worth doing yourself. And I am happy to even film one of my recovery sessions that I learned from back in the time when I was doing Taekwondo and I was trying to make the Olympics. We used to do like some pretty intense, it's funny to say intense, but intense recovery sessions to help our bodies bounce back so we could just smash it, 6 hours a day, every day. Now, massage. Massage is another way to improve circulation. Now, not all of us can afford to have a massage every week, but if you get a massage at least once a month, this is going to go a long way to making sure that you're not getting injured. Because when you work from kind of your neck all the way down, working on your forearms, even your hands and your feet, you're going to become aware of the soreness and tightness. But it's very rare that we're able to improve our circulation passively. We always have to move our bodies to get blood to move. But with massage, we can just lie there, we can lower our heart rate and improve our circulation. This is crazy beneficial. So I definitely encourage all of you out there, you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so hopefully you don't have too many intimacy issues. Get in there, get pummeled. It will do a lot to help you bounce back, reduce your injuries, and then also help muscle growth and strength development. So we've got movement, swimming, and then also massage. I have two more for you guys. Magnesium. Why magnesium? Don't hold your breath. So magnesium draws calcium into the muscle tissues, guys. This is why magnesium is so helpful. We need calcium for muscular contractions. So when actin and myosin bind together, kind of like a zipper, they grip, contract, relax, contract, relax. We have this happening trillions and trillions of times to have one single muscle contraction. All these zippers doing up at once, calcium is part of the exchange there. Now, if you don't have adequate amounts of calcium in and around those tissues, you're not going to get a strong muscle contraction. Magnesium draws calcium into the muscle tissues. That's why it is so beneficial. Magnesium is also known to help restore the kind of pH balance in muscles. So if you've got a lot of acidity in and around the muscles from heaps of lactate, when your forearms are just so smashed, you can barely even get the car keys to get in the car after really hard rolling. And then you think, oh, my fingers, my forearms are so sore. You don't just have to get it from taking an oral supplement. So that's magnesium chelate. You can get like a magnesium phosphate, which is like a spray, and you can actually spray it directly onto the tissues and you can absorb it through your skin. And this is another good way to treat affected muscles. But you don't want to go too hard with that, guys, because you can develop a skin irritation, which I did do before. I was putting magnesium oil on my calves, and my calves are getting super jacked up. And I end up getting like skin irritation. Not like, kind of like a rash, but just my skin was like so sore. It felt like it was sunburnt. And it wasn't pretty. So check it out, guys. You can get magnesium as a supplement. It's relatively cheap. Have it before bed. It'll help you sleep because it helps restore your nervous system. It'll help balance out the acidity in your muscles. And it also will help draw calcium into the muscle tissues. Last but not least is sleep itself. Now, in terms of testosterone and growth hormone, male or female, you want this. How we regulate our appetite and everything is sleep. So there's a great book by Dr. Matthew Baker, which is called I think it's called Why We Sleep, or The Importance of Sleep. I think I've got it on the shelf behind me. I should probably pull it out. If you're not across this book, you can Google Matthew Baker on Joe Rogan. If you want to listen to Rogan, that's a good one. He's also been on heaps of other podcasts, or just Google him and just Google Matthew Baker sleep book. It's pretty famous, definitely worth checking out. But what you should know is sleep equals steroids. So if you want your body to grow, you must sleep. I'll be talking to people very regularly and they'll say, I'm sore all the time. My body's all fucked up. I don't know why. And I'm like, oh yeah, how's your food? Oh, my diet's good. I'm training hard. Cool. How's your sleep? Oh, my sleep's garbage. Right. There you go. That's what we need to work on. Excuse me. I think it's one of these things that people don't really understand, that it's actually probably the most important thing outside of the actual workout that you do is how well you recover. If you want big performance, you need big recovery, and sleep is the key. My girl, Marina, if you have extreme DOMS, is it bad, or will it limit the output of the workout? Foam rolling, blood circulation. Yes. So foam rolling and doing any of the tissue work that we kind of prescribe, whether it's using a ball or a roller, is like self-massage in terms of stimulating blood flow and loosening up connective tissue. Now, if you've got DOMS for multiple days, then your nutrition is not up to par. It's really simple. Protein. This is probably other than sleep, I said this at the start, we need adequate nutrition. If you're not getting enough protein, your body will not rebuild. It's the building blocks of everything. Hair, nails, obviously not teeth. There's probably a small amount of protein in there somewhere. But essentially, if you want things to restore, you need protein and you also need fat. I mean, carbohydrates is the fuel, but really protein and fats are the building blocks. Fat for your immunity, and then protein for rebuilding pretty much everything. Amino acids are so important in so many chemical exchanges in the body, not just rebuilding. So if your rate of output is far higher than your rate of restoration, you're going to be freaking sore. And if you're sore for big sore for many days, then obviously this does affect performance. Really, you shouldn't be crippling sore for anything more than a space of 12 to 16 hours. If it's anything greater than that, one, your recovery methods are not good enough, or two, your diet is insufficient. Now, there's so many ways, easy ways for us as first world humans to get protein. It doesn't matter if you're vegan or vegetarian, heaps of food options for you. It doesn't matter if you've got some kind of intolerance or you can't handle certain foods. So many options for you to get protein. And you don't need to just take my word for it. You can Google vegan options for protein. It'll pop up. Food intolerances. I can't eat this and this. Where do I get my protein? It'll come up. There's so many options for you. So what you need to understand is this. You probably need to eat more protein than you're currently eating to help reduce your muscle soreness. So just in summary, guys, movement, swimming or immersing yourself in water and moving around, massage, foam rolling, all of that stuff to help improve the circulation in a more passive way without taxing the body. Magnesium chelate or magnesium phosphate, or magnesium chelate goes in your mouth. Magnesium phosphate can go on skin. It doesn't mean that you get lifting chalk, which is also magnesium, and just put it. Don't do that. That's not healthy. I don't know if you've ever done that. You had chalk on your hands. You went to do pull-ups and you go, yeah, don't do that. Sleep and protein. That's the summary, guys. So if you're really sore, it's not the worst thing, but if it's lasting more than 12 to 16 hours, we need to revise our nutrition and our recovery. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I hope that gives you some info that's helpful. If you have any other questions around this topic actually came from our boy, Harry. Harry Hatt, he's my guy. Harry 101, such a good bulletproofer. and he suggested this topic. And if you guys would like something answered, please hit me up and I will do my best to, if I don't know the information just off my own experience, I will go and research the topic and I will come back to you with what's out there in the world of science and literature and try and filter it in a way that applies to you. Yeah, for sure. This is what I'd say, guys. Yeah, my guy, Harry, shout out. You have to think this. It's really important to hear that you need to eat more actually on your recovery days. So it's actually even though you think, oh, I've got to eat more when I'm exercising more, the days when your body is rebuilding, that's when you really need to get that protein in. The only thing about protein is it's hard to digest. So if you really want protein in your bloodstream and helping you, it needs to kind of be before the fact and after the fact. So you got to keep it pretty consistent. You shouldn't have a day where you have just like no protein at all. You can change the different ways that you consume it, but ultimately, if you want to be active every single day, you got to have protein in your system. All right, my friends, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, please feel free to put in the comments or go to our community page on Facebook. Just go to Bulletproof for BJJ Community. Just put that in search. You'll find it. If you're not a member, we'll sign you up. It'll be awesome. Love to see you guys on there asking your questions. And the new Bulletproof for BJJ standards will be our beta test version will be dropping this week. I'm quite certain. I chatted to Joey last Thursday about it, and it'll be a chance for you guys to give us some feedback, test it out, give us some help, and really help us make it the best it can be before we put the finished product out there. So we will need your help and feedback with that. Please do check it out. There'll be a questionnaire that will come out with it about 2 weeks after we give you guys the exposure. And we really appreciate all your input because ultimately, we will be releasing the Bulletproof for BJJ app. Oh yeah, you heard it here first. That's a secret, guys. So maybe don't tell everybody, or maybe tell everybody. I don't know. The app will be coming out later next year. So all the preliminary work that we do with our content, how you guys interact with it, we will be incorporating that into the functionality of the app, which should be coming late, I don't want to put a date on it. Let's say late 2022. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of this thing. Both Joey and I really appreciate you guys. And between now and when I see you next, stay bulletproof.